30,000 feet above the Atlantic, the cockpit lights flickered, and every digital display went dead, except the one reflecting Ava Sinclair's steady eyes. Ava felt the hush before anyone else noticed it, a sullen, unnatural lull vibrating through the cabin floor. She'd been trying to sleep, slumped between duffel bags and sealed crates of medical drones, but the change in the aircraft's heartbeat jolted her fully awake. Insulated from the cockpit by a composite bulkhead, she still sensed that the machine trusted no one now, not even itself. The AI flight system had frozen. She could taste it in the sudden stagnation of airflow, in the subtle drift of weight, in the way the automated cabin lights brightened by a fraction, compensating for something nobody had asked of them. 2 rows ahead, Lieutenant Conrad Con Malley, the squad's thick-necked training officer, lowered his touchscreen slate. "Anybody else feel that?" he muttered, but loud enough for the restless trainees to hear. Muscles tensed up like cocked springs. The aircraft call sign Archangel 4 was ferrying 32 disaster response specialists and 8 tons of equipment from the Larimer Emergency Aviation Facility in Virginia to Reykjavik for a joint Arctic drill. Every seat was filled with men who believed technology had replaced the need for people like Ava, and with women who'd learned to stop arguing that point. Ava straightened, brushing a loose strand of chestnut hair behind her ear. Technically, she was mission, grounded by regulation, grounded by politics, grounded by the tiny black star of a medical waiver permanently attached to her file. Yet the instinct to solve problems hovered like a persistent companion, flaring to life whenever metal complained. She tugged the zipper of her sage-green flight jacket, feeling the frayed edge where she'd stitched in her father's sniper. Tab 20 years earlier. It was invisible from the outside, but she knew precisely where it lay over her heart, a silent counterweight to the doubts that never quite settled. The cabin lurched. Overhead panels chimed, then went silent. Oxygen indicators blinked amber. Ava's calves tightened against the floorboards. She'd spent a decade maintaining aircraft systems before a peripheral nerve. Injury had made the brass sight, prudence, and pull her pilot privileges. Since then she'd drifted in the realm of ground instruction, writing emergency response protocols, tutoring fresh recruits, and recalibrating training drones no one else bothered to understand. She was the one who wiped grit out of lenses, realigned gyros, and kept the hush in the hangar plausible. But she had not felt the breath of altitude against her own hands in 5 years. "Ladies and gents," Con Malley called, twisting in his seat. "Seatbelts tight, devices stowed until we figure out this odd ripple. Probably turbulence." Turbulence, Ava thought, doesn't kill the iNav suite. But she kept silent. She watched Sergeant Boone, the youngest tech on board, fumble a panel latch. For the 3rd time since takeoff. His gloves were too large, ordered in bulk to save procurement costs. Ava's mentor instincts twitched. She held herself back. There were rules about interference, about letting people learn through small mistakes. Still, her mother's voice, Dr. Eliza Sinclair, the unit's legendary field medic, whispered in memory, "Don't let pride trump prevention. You step in before the bleed-out begins." The lighting dimmed again. A twin buzz echoed from the fuselage, like 2 enormous bees colliding in metal corridors. Archangel 4 drifted 5 degrees off course without announcing the deviation. An oppressive awareness spread. The pilot was not touching the controls, because the pilot was a line of code. Human officers sat behind locked doors, hands folded, overseeing systems that were now ignoring them. Ava unbuckled, stood, and instantly felt every male gaze. She was slender, built more for the agility she'd honed on obstacle courses than for intimidation. Yet there was something in her posture, an engineer's certainty, that quieted heckles before they formed words. She stepped toward the forward bulkhead, where a maintenance console peeked from under emergency gear. It wasn't designed for flight control, but it could talk to the ship's nervous system if coerced. She knelt, popping its dust cover, fingers dancing across the recessed keyboard. "Sinclair," Mally warned, rising. "Back in your seat." "I just want to see the fault tree," she replied. Calm, almost gentle. "Give me 30 seconds. He hesitated. He'd mocked her earlier for lugging the sonic torque wrench as a carry-on. You expecting to tune the clouds? But now uncertainty flitted across his gaze. Ava spared no attention. She was already inside the system, coaxing clunky text readouts through a low-level diagnostic interface. 2 lines of red scrolled, halting her breath. Flight AI Core. Process. Non-responsive. Code 9B. Redundant core. Standby maintenance mode. Irredundant core. Maintenance mode. The second brain was asleep, awaiting a manual handshake. A backup that refused to assume control without a human-proving intervention. Ava's heart sprinted. She glanced over her shoulder. Mally hovered, arms folded. Behind him, the trainees watched as though she was defusing a bomb. "Droppa, if you've ever been underestimated," she murmured to herself, half joke, half invocation of courage. With a breath, she keyed a bypass command. The console protested. "Unauthorized. Requires captain-level biometric confirmation." The cockpit door, of course, was sealed standard protocol in flight. And the ranking officers behind it trusted the AI implicitly. If they noticed anything amiss, they'd wait for the system to self-correct. Following Handbook Procedure 72C, they could sit there until the code looped into infinity, along with the aircraft's fuel consumption. Ava's father, Master Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Sinclair, once told her that the trick to sniping wasn't patience, it was timing. You waited until the moment the whole world inhaled. Then you let your breath go while there's entered, and your bullet slipped through the exhale like an undisputed fact. Right now, Archangel 4 Exhale.Ava tapped a new string. Activate backup. Manual authorization. The screen flashed a countdown. 300. 299. It wanted a captain's voice print within 5 minutes. Unearned rank? She could fake audio modulation, perhaps. But there was a faster way. She rose and walked directly toward the cockpit, as though invited. Mally's hand shot out. "Civilian. Ground staff don't cross that threshold, Sinclair. Orders." "I know," she said. "But ground staff also know when the bird's about to stall. Do you?" His eyes narrowed. The aircraft dipped not a lot, but enough for unsecured equipment to slide. Half an inch. Someone shouted an oath. Overhead bins clacked. "Smash that, if you feel the floor shift," a jittery trainee joked, trying for levity. Ava ignored him. She reached the cockpit door's mic panel. "Captain Zoller," she spoke clearly. "This is Technical Specialist Sinclair. Your AI core is offline, requesting permission to enter and restore redundancies manually." Silence. Then static-laced. Diagnostics show nominal. Return to cabin. A man too trusting in readouts that had already FLAKED. With 2 palms, Ava braced the doorframe. "Captain, with respect, your instrument readouts just froze and you haven't noticed because HUD memory is feeding cached graphics. You're flying blind. If I'm wrong, I'll take any reprimand you write. If I'm right, we're minutes from uncontrolled descent." No response. Behind her, Mally whispered, "They'll court-martial you." Ava whispered back, "Only if we land." Her fingers found the emergency lever cover next to the panel, mechanical, purposely analog. She hadn't touched one since simulator. Drills, yet the shape felt like an old friend. She flipped it. Alarms squealed. The cockpit door unlocked with a hydraulic sigh. Gasps rippled through the cabin. Inside, Captain Zoller and First Officer Meta sat rigid, VR visors lowered, unaware. Their projections had stalled. Their gloves were motionless over inert holographic throttles. Holograms still pretended to respond, loops repeating like a ghost dance. Ava slapped the visor release on Meta's headset. The pilot blinked into reality. Confusion, anger, then terror blossomed as the unfiltered dash showed a dead horizon line and altitude bleed. AI says everything's stable, Meta croaked. AI isn't talking, Ava said. Your backup's in maintenance. I can wake it. Zoller gawked at the instruments, wobble creeping into his voice. Who the hell are you? The mechanic nobody listens to, Ava replied. Move. She slid into the auxiliary seat, cracked her knuckles. Shabby habit, her mother scolded, and plugged her personal data key into the manual override. A prompt blossomed. Enter pilot ID. That she typed her revoked license number. Error. Revocation flag. Next prompt. Enter second authorization. Her eyes darted to a small brushed steel compartment under the console marked voice prism. She gripped it, pried open. Inside lay a throat mic for emergency crew replacement. Regulations demanded any mission have a fallback human override. But fallback status required an override code locked since launch. She remembered nights in simulation pits, repeating command phrases until her vocal cords shredded. The override code was the same everywhere, 6 words hardly anyone ever said aloud. Archangel Principal, this is Ghost Hand, the console chimed. Identity confirmed. Backup core online in 10-9. The aircraft jerked as control surfaces realigned. Altitude decay halted. But here came the next blow. Pitot tubes had iced unnoticed. Auto-purge was offline. Manual reversal would produce violent oscillations. Ava needed heat bleed across the wings within 60 seconds or risk a stall spin. Comment if you've ever trusted tech too much, she muttered. She keyed a bleed sequence. Fingers flying, but the system demanded captain confirmation again. Ava slammed her fist, then inhaled. Timing, father said. World inhales, you exhale. She looked at Zoller. Say yes, she ordered. What? He stuttered. Say, authorize thermal purge, now. Confusion racked his features, but fear triumphed. Authorize thermal purge. She repeated the phrase in unison, their voices merging across cockpit mics. The computer accepted the duet, valves hissed, and twin fuel cells vented heat along wing edges. Numbers steadied. Ava exhaled, unaware she'd been holding breath longer than a sniper's perfect shot window. Outside the cockpit, the cabin sat in stunned stillness. Trainees watched through the open door like worshippers glimpsing forbidden rites. Ava knew the worst wasn't over. Backup core lacked adaptive weather analytics. A storm front loomed on satellite feed. They were stable but crippled. Mali appeared behind her, half awe, half residual suspicion. We good? We're alive, Ava answered. Now we land this thing before Reykjavik or ditch line. But the set feed flickered, then froze. The backup core coughed lines of code across her display. Weather radar unavailable, pathfinding offline, manual navigation required. Ava's pulse hammered. She glanced at the star-specked void beyond the windshield, Orion's belt glinting. Like a promise. She'd studied celestial nav because algorithms sometimes failed. She could read the sky the way her mother read vital signs. Yet 30 souls behind her were about to learn whether trust misplaced could be reclaimed by one. Stubborn hand. Mali's voice rasped over intercom. Sinclair, cabin wants to know, can you really fly? She tightened harness straps, eyes fixed on the failing instruments. Watch me. The aircraft groaned, wings slicing thicker air as it descended through sheer uncertainty. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're from. If this story moves you, please subscribe. Tomorrow, I have a special story for you. The cockpit shuddered as Ava eased the yoke, feeling the aircraft's heavy reluctance to obey. 30,000 feet turned to 29.9, then 29.8. A controlled slide rather than a free fall. Fuel indicators flickered. Indecisive. Her breath formed a steady metronome, draw, hold, release in perfect counterpoint to the metallic groans rippling through. Archangel IV's ribs, Captain Zoller hovered behind her like a ghost who hadn't decided whether to haunt or help. He kept one hand on the back of Ava's seat, the other trembling near the manual radio toggle, eyes darting between inert digital panels and the sparse green glow of analog backup she'd coaxed to life. First Officer Mehta had recovered enough presence to run checklists on paper printouts, his pen scratching like a surgeon sewing skin. Outside, the night sky churned. A bruised wall of weather loomed off the port bow, the storm's anvil crest lit by threads of distant lightning. The AI's abdicating silence left them blind to real-time radar, but Ava didn't need an algorithm to read clouds swelling like dark lungs. She angled the aircraft 10 degrees starboard, slipping along the storm's perimeter in hopes of finding calmer corridors. She glanced through the open cockpit door. The cabin wore twin masks, grim determination on grizzled veterans, raw fear on fresh recruits. Lieutenant Malley roamed the aisle, enforcing seatbelts and securing gear nets now that turbulence jostled freight pallets. Every so often he met Ava's gaze, the question still flickering, "Can you really fly?" But each successful course correction strengthened his grudging faith. Asterisk. Drop a, if you've ever felt adrenaline wiped out away. Asterisk of a thought, imagining her voice carried through the fuselage. She needed them focused, not panicked. She re-inherited the sky the way one reclaims an estranged family estate cautiously, boundary by boundary. Her father's lessons surfaced like constellations. Read the horizon line's curvature. Triangulate by star chains, let the compass whisper longitude. She toggled the cabin lights to half power, reducing glare so her eyes could trace Orion's belt sliding along the windshield's upper edge. If she could keep Betelgeuse at 2 o'clock relative bearing while Altair rose astern, she'd maintain a northwest arc curling toward the Greenland coast farther than Reykjavik, but within reachable fuel margins. Captain Zoller cleared his throat. "I need to log your actions, Specialist Sinclair." "Chain of command demands. Log away," she replied, voice level. "But keep your hands steady, the rudder's sticky. Any sudden input will pitch us into a Dutch roll." He bristled, yet complied, recording on his wristpad. Authority mattered to him. Survival mattered to her. Another tremor rattled the airframe. Ice sheared off the leading edges like shards from a broken glacier, pinging the fuselage. Aveve trimmed. Elevator pitch 2 taps up, coaxing lift to counter microstall pockets. The altimeter settled at 27,000. Good. Above dense weather, but below the stratospheric frost shelf where pitot tubes froze. "Fuel cell delta rising," Mehta said, tapping the analog gauge. "Left bank shows a pressure." "Drop." Ava's mind sprinted. The left fuel string had been patched last month after microfractures from repeated thermal cycling. She had argued to replace it entirely. Procurement had opted for epoxy filler. Now epoxy swelled in cold, cracked under pressure. She throttled back engine 2 to relieve stress, sacrificing speed for integrity. Malley's voice crackled over comms from the cabin interphone. "Sinclair, passengers report a burnt plastic odor mid-deck." "Copy," Ava replied. "Likely insulation on payload conduits overheating. Kill power to auxiliary heater lines. Vent mid-deck circulation on low," he confirmed. 20 seconds later, odor reports subsided. Ava permitted herself one heartbeat of relief. Then the next threat arrived. The main satellite array, previously dormant, flared with life, but not in response to her coaxing. The backup AI had attempted an auto-sync with geostationary relays and jammed itself in handshake hell, flooding the internal bus with repeated pings. Every other subsystem stuttered, warning LEDs pulsed amber. Ava yanked the combust breaker, severing the loop. The cabin plunged into radio silence. Only wind remained, wailing like an offended spirit. Asterisk tap A, if you've ever had to kill. A system to save the mission. Asterisk she mused silently. wishing she could reassure the team that sometimes breaking protocol was the only way forward. Meta exhaled. We're dark to a TC, dark to SatNav, dark to Search Rescue Net. Not entirely, Ava said. She reached under the console, retrieving a dusty HF handset rarely used in the age of quantum mesh links. She plugged it into a decade-old port, twisted the gain knob, and the cockpit filled with static and ocean of white noise. Ancient yet alive. She tuned through frequencies, listening for distant Morse or voice channels. The storm's ionization smeared signals, but after a minute of arcane adjustments, a faint beacon emerged. Asterisk dash dot dash. Asterisk repeating. She smiled. Kern code meaning atmospheric storm static. Someone else was out there, battling the same noise. She keyed the mic. Unknown station. This is Archangel 4, Mayday Relay. Flight AI failure, manual control, request. Weather vectoring. The response took 30 seconds to crawl through cosmic fuzz. Archangel 4, identity not confirmed. Provide encryption token. Ava cursed. Encryption tokens resided in the dead AI core. She scanned for alternatives. The old handset had a burst data button. Legacy for emergency codes printed on laminated cards. Zoller produced one, hands shaking. He peeled plastic to reveal a list of one-time OTP keys. Ava read a 6-digit sequence. The beacon accepted, then delivered coordinates. A forward operating ice strip on Greenland's eastern shelf. Sermelik Emergency Runway 2. No official crew. Only automated beacons and a skeletal maintenance robot. But the strip's runway lights responded to encrypted approach pings. It lay beneath the storm's flank, reachable within 90 minutes at reduced throttle. Zoller leaned forward. Greenland? That's a detour of 300 nautical miles. It's concrete and controllable, Ava replied. And outside the convective cell that's about to swallow Reykjavik. You want a detour or a dive? He subsided. She broadcast to cabin speakers. All personnel, this is Sinclair. We're diverting to alternate runway Sermelik 2, secure equipment nets. Prep cold weather gear. Maintain seatbelts until instructed. A chorus of clipped acknowledgments returned. Military discipline reasserted itself like an old discipline. Gloves snapping on. She trimmed again, set heading 304, and reduced to Mach .72. The engines rumbled with grudging compliance. Minutes stretched into uneasy hours. The storm prowled the horizon, casting ghost blue flashes across cloudscapes. Ava's mind ran continuous partial diagnostics, scanning for vibrations, heat spikes, torque anomalies. Every so often, she caught her reflection in the darkened windshield, eyes wide, jaw set. She looked older than 32, but sparks of fierce purpose rendered age moot. Her thoughts drifted, briefly, to her mother's field hospital stories. Never forget, Eliza Sinclair had said, cleaning blood from forceps, asterisk that calm is contagious. Show them you breathe, and they will breathe. Asterisk Ava inhaled through nose, exhaled through mouth, sinking breath with the engine cycles. Calm radiated, Mally. Re-entered cockpit holding an insulated mug. Coffee from the chemical heater. Tastes like regret, but it's warm. She accepted gratefully, sipping. Bitterness grounded her senses. She noticed Mally's gaze on her stitched sniper tab under jacket seam. He spoke softly, out of earshot of Zoller. Your dad taught you celestial nav? Ava nodded. He'd be proud. A quiet beat. Mally. Cleared throat, reverted to officer mode. Cabin secure. Med drone strapped. Boone's running a sweep for loose lithium cells. Good, Ava said. Tell Med Corman to prep heated blankets. Sermelik's tarmac hits -20 at night. He nodded and withdrew. At 90 minutes out, the aircraft trembled again, different frequency, deeper baseline. Ava's nerves spiked. Engine 2 compressor tone rose abnormally. She pulled a diagnostic. The backup AI flagged debris ingestion risk. High-altitude volcanic ash, perhaps. But they were far from known vents. She ran an infrared sweep via belly cam. Grainy feed showed faint particulate haze sparkling in Navlight's cone. Not ash ice crystals, thick like diamond dust. The storm had cooled stratosphere enough to spawn an ice field aloft, invisible to conventional radar. Intake icing threatened surge. She throttled back further, tweaking bleed air anti-ice. Fans whined. Temperature steadied, but fuel burn increased to maintain thrust margin. She recalculated. Fuel to Sermolek dropped from comfortable to tight. "Captain," she said, "we may land with less than 5% reserve." Zoller frowned. "Regulation minimum is 8. We can discuss regulations on the ground." He bit back retort. Meta traced fingertip across laminated chart. "Runway length 1,900 meters. That's short for our weight. We'll dump." "Cargo," Ava said. "Non-essential pallets first. Mally can coordinate." Zoller balked. "That gear is worth millions. It's aluminum and plastic compared to 32 lives." She snapped. Zoller looked away. Beneath them grew a jagged quilt of fjords and glacier tongues shimmering in moonlight. Sermolek Runway 2 lay on a coastal shelf carved from permafrost, automated lights winking lonely invitation. Yet as they approached, something felt off. The beacon's transponder, IDS-R2, morphed mid-ping to SR1, then vanished. Runway lights dimmed, flickered, returned at half intensity. What happened? Meta breathed. Ava's pupils widened, hunting luminous dots. Darkness gaped instead. She keyed at Chef. "Sermolek beacon, lights out. Request reignite." "Static. Repeat. Sermolek beacon, lights out." "Dead air," Zoller whispered. "If the generator failed." "Then we land in blackout," Ava finished. Her voice surprised even her steady, almost serene. "Meta, prep landing checklist." "Captain, override emergency floodlights under fuselage. They'll burn remaining battery in 5 minutes, make them count." Zoller obeyed. Twin halogen beams swept the night, revealing a snow-swept strip of concrete. But only for 60 meters before merging with inky void. Farther stretch remained swallowed by darkness. No depth cues. Meta's hand trembled at gear lever. "Gear down?" "On my mark," Ava said. She lined crosshairs with the faint glint of runway threshold where snow glossed asphalt. She reduced throttle, feeling engine spool. Airspeed bled. Altimeter wound down 19,000, 18. She needed 12. To intercept glide slope, if slope truly existed. Asterisk if you've ever trusted your instincts over displays. Hit that, in your heart, asterisk, she thought. Channeling courage into steel. 8,000 feet. A violent downdraft punched them. The aircraft sagged 800 feet in a second. Loose bags slamming overhead bins. Alarms shrieked. Ava maxed pitch, compensating. Airframe groaned but held. 7,000. 6, flaps 25. Gear lever down. Indicator lamps sputtered, then 2. Green, 1 amber nose gear unlocked. Manual lock? Meta asked. "Will banana peel if nose gear folds?" Zoller warned. "Then we don't let it fold," Ava replied. 2,000 feet. Floodlights etched a narrow lane over tundra. No lights ahead. Ava keyed cabin. "Brace, heads down." She pitched nose slightly above horizon, reducing sink rate, engines idle. The strip appeared, then vanished in alternating flashes as snow gusts swept beams aside. She tracked by memory of the last visual glimpse, adjusting 5 feet left. At 500 feet, a jagged silhouette loomed across threshold snowdrift or ice heave, towering 3 meters. Ava's breath froze. No time to pull up and go around. Fuel fumes. She slammed throttle, chasing lift, but engine spooled sluggishly. 300 feet. Drift raced toward windshield. She whispered, "Hold." At 150 feet, she yanked spoilers half deploy, Kicked rudder right, skidding the bird sideways 50 meters to align with a narrower strip adjacent to obstruction, an old taxiway maybe. Tires 10 seconds from touchdown, she retracted. Spoilers halfway to soften sink. 50 feet. Nose gear indicator still amber. She recycled latch, nothing, Sinclair. Zoller shouted. Ava's fingers flew hot, wiring hydraulic servo for nose brace, using 2 circuit breakers bridged by. Her torque wrench improvised conductor. Sparks hissed. Amber winked green dash barely. 20 feet. She flared, settling heavy. Rear tires screamed, biting into ice-crusted asphalt. Shock pylons compressed like springs about to snap. Nose wheel descended, held, then clanged as it locked. She deployed reverse thrust. Engines coughed, grudgingly spat power backwards. Snow billowed, vision gone. She stabbed brakes, hydraulics moaned. Skid alarms wailed. They slowed, still blind, still alive. At last they drifted to halt after what felt like eternity. Silence, broken only by hiss of cooling metal. Then a thunderous bang rocked the tail engine to failure, turbine blades seizing from crystal shards. Fire warning flared crimson. Ava. Slammed cutoff valves, activated extinguishers. Outside, orange glow reflected off swirling snow. Wind-stoked flames along aft fuselage that she keyed intercom. Evac sequence. Aft slides unusable. Forward slides only. Grab thermal blankets. Cabin erupted into choreographed chaos. Malley, voice iron, directed Rose. Boom pried hatch levers. Slides unfurled, whipping in gale. Ava secured cockpit, ripping. Circuit keys to cold shut systems. She turned to exit, but something caught her eye. The storm's belly beyond windshield, split with a green aurora, ghostly curtain rippling. Beautiful, terrible, Zoller hovered. Go! She nodded, but hesitated. In the overhead locker of cockpit sat the sealed crate of prototype med drones, worth millions. Yes, but more. They could save earthquake victims tomorrow. Flames crept toward cargo section. Sprinklers sputtered, low pressure. Ava's mind raced. Leave now, survive. Or risk cabin fire to salvage drones critical for upcoming drill. Decision space 3 seconds. She grabbed fire-rated gloves, lunged for cockpit door. A thunderclap outside. The runway lights burst alive again, blazing white against snow. And along their edges marched figure silhouettes of armed men in Arctic camo. No insignia, emerging from storm like phantoms, aiming rifles at the burning aircraft. Ava froze. Half inside smoke, half in cold wind. Unknown hostiles? Rescue detail? No markings. First rifleman angled laser. Across her chest through windshield. End. Part 2 cliffhanger. Without flinching, Ava jerked sideways, yanking Zoller down just as the laser dot bloomed into a tight cone of fractured plexi where her head had been. The windshield spider webbed. Arctic air screamed through the hole, dragging acrid smoke. With it, Zoller hit the deck, hands over ears. Ava's thoughts accelerated trajectory, shooter's angle, 30 yards out, weapons suppressed, likely using sub-zero compensators to prevent barrel flash. Whoever they were, they wanted the aircraft intact, not burnt, or they'd have targeted the fuel vents. She slapped the cockpit interphone. Lieutenant Malley, hostile contact outside forward quarter. Evac reroute. Use starboard over wing exits. Deploy emergency rope lines. Maintain cover behind landing gear. Copy. Static, then Malley's rasp. Copy, but fires licking. Fuselage. Slides compromised. Ava's gaze darted to the open hatch behind the cockpit. Flames clawed along insulation, smoke thickening like wet wool. Heat pricked her cheeks despite icy wind. She crouched, grabbed a portable halon canister, and doused flame tongues enough to stem spread. Orange dulled to sullen black. Outside, figures advanced in chevron formation, rifles up. Night vision visors shimmered green. No national flags. The runway lights, recently relit, were probably theirs bait and beacon. Archangel 4 sat a glistening prize loaded with tech fuel, and 32 specialists whose ransom values soared by the minute. Ava dashed a quick mental sum. Distance to shooters, time to breach, crew response readiness. She keyed the PA. Everyone, heads low. We have ground aggressors. Prepare for covert disembark. Follow Malley's commands exactly. Drop a if you'd face fire for your team. She severed the line. Grabbed 2 emergency flashbangs from a panel marked obsolete. Regulations had replaced them with non-lethals tuned for AI riot drones. But old stock remained. She tucked one at her belt, handed the other to Zoller. Pull. Pin. Throw past landing gear when I say. Then get those med drone crates onto snow sleds. His mouth opened protest her question, but she was already moving, sliding down the cockpit ladder into the forward galley. Smoke pooled, thick and buttery. Boone and 2 recruits hacked coughs while wrangling a fire hose too short to reach the tail blaze. Valve off. Hose dead, Ava ordered. Focus on evac. Drill 6B. Boone's eyes reddened, snapped alert. Roger. They followed as she ducked into avionics bay. Cables hissed overhead, melting. Sparks drifted like lethal snowflakes. She keyed a breaker, main cabin lights. Went dark, replaced by dim red strips, night vision friendly. Disorienting to invaders tracking silhouettes. Over wing exit right. Malley crouched, prying panel. Slide packs shredded by heat. He had looped 2 braided climbing ropes through anchor eyes. Ava gave him an approving nod as she pushed past to peer through the wing root port. Shooters fanned left and right, clearing arcs. One pointed to aft flame, gesturing. They wanted to suppress fire to preserve their prize. Malley whispered, "Time's up." "On my mark," Ava said, slipping flashbang ring between fingers. 3, 2, 1. She popped lever, tossed canister out the port. In the same heartbeat, Zoller hurled his beneath the nose gear. Dual concussions ripped night stillness, white-hot bursts that devoured NVG sensors. Shooters' visors flared, bathing them in blank luminescence. Shouts rang in some Nordic tongue, syllables short, cold. "Go!" Ava hissed. Malley launched rope coils. They slapped wing surface, unfurling to runway. Boone and first rank of passengers. Slid belly down. Boots scraping ice. Steam burst from nostrils into -20 air. They duck-waddled toward shadow of starboard engine cowling, momentary cover. Automatic fire roared blind, scattered. Tracers stitched snow well wide. Flashbang afterimages still burned in gunners' eyes. Ava dropped last in first wave, sliding. With knees bent to cushion, she hit tarmac, rolled under wing. Ice crystals bit her cheek. Adrenaline-numbed cold dot she scanned. Shooters recovered, toggling visors to thermal maybe. One leveled rifle at Boone's cluster. Ava snatched a snow-clotted chalk, hurled. It claimed his barrel, spoiling aim. Malley fired a flare pistol, phosphor streak lit sky, tail colliding with shooter's shoulder. He screamed, flailing as jacket ignited. Ava dragged Boone behind landing gear strut. "Keep moving," she urged the others, pointing toward a low maintenance shed 50 yards off taxiway. Its steel siding bore the faded NATO crest, ancient, but walls at least. They sprinted in staggered bursts. Ava covered, kneeling, firing a borrowed sidearm Khan's backup Glock into snowy dark too. Slow pursuit. She counted rounds, mind cold. Mechanical. Mid-pack, Zoller and Meta heaved the med drone crate on a folding sled. Wheels shrieked across cracked asphalt. Ava admired their grit. "Smash that if you think perseverance trumps protocol," she thought. Fueling her fire. Thunder cracked overhead. No, a sharp shot. Bullet slapped wing, ricocheting near her ear. She pivoted, sighting muzzle flash beyond lifeless light tower. 300 meters. Too far for pistol. She ducked, sprinted. The maintenance shed door moaned open. Mally herded people inside, Boone slamming lot bar. Ava barreled through last, breathing frost clouds. Outside, rifles peppered corrugated steel. Rounds pierced, spitting sparks but stopping shy of lethal trajectories. Interior gloom swallowed. Then smell of diesel, machine grease. Emergency lanterns flickered on battery. Snow dust sifted through roof vents. Rows of service vehicles hibernated, 2 fuel trucks, a battered snowcat, 1 tracked cargo hauler with engine blankets. Ava assessed quickly, brain mapping egress. Count heads, she ordered Boone. Seal side windows with pallets. Zoller. Meta drone crate to workbench, prep deploy. Zoller frowned. Deploy? They're medical. Try mode, Ava answered. Pulse echo sensors can map hostiles through walls. We hacked their tracking to scout. His expression shifted from doubt to intrigue. They cracked crate seals, revealing 4 sleek insectoid drones, carbon fiber wings folded. Meta unboxed a control tablet. Ava patched into local Blowview Wi-Fi hub dead. She rerouted via short-range blue beam, its designers used for battlefield. Triage. Mally returned. All 32 accounted plus crew. 2 minor injuries, ammo minimal. Ava nodded. Priority, delay aggressors, secure alternate comms, signal rescue. Rescue who? HF's down, satellites ignoring. She tapped drone controller. But drones talk on 40 GHz Omni. Piggyback any open node, then bounce. Enough to leak. SOS beyond jammers. As they spoke, rifle butts hammered shed door. Metal buckled inward. Ava enabled first drone, codenamed Nightingale. Its wings unfolded with soft chirr of servos. She programmed 90-second recon orbit, thermal highlight on human signatures. Nightingale zipped through busted vent into blizzard. She keyed. Feed to lantern projector. A grainy infrared view displayed roofline, then panned over runway. Hostiles numbered 12, 8 around aircraft, 4 advancing toward shed using cargo crates as cover. Their rifles featured under-barrel canisters grenade. Launchers likely. A pickup truck idled near darkened runway lights, antenna mast humming. Jamming rig. Mercenaries, Mally muttered. Probably targeting I-cores for black market. Ava's gut agreed. The market for crashed state AI seeds soared since. Civil defense agencies pivoted to machine pilots. Frozen cores could be rebooted offline, then sold. Killing witnesses optional. Nightingale flagged a new heat blob at Forested. Ridge East, 2 vehicle convoy creeping reinforcements. Time dwindled. Ava unboxed second drone Jayhawk. We rigged Jayhawk with flare pack, draw them off. She said. Meanwhile we fuel Snowcat. Push to ridge, hide until sun. Fuel truck leak risk, Boone warned. If hit, boom. Then we siphon only what we need. They assembled impromptu pipeline using hose segments. Diesel fumes thickened. Air, Zoller to his credit, worked elbow deep in sludge. Gunfire resumed, door hinges shrieked. Shots rang through side window, shattering lantern. Darkness surged until battery backup clicked to dim. Ava's pulse drumbeat quickened, but her movements remained deliberate. She triggered Jayhawk, loaded with 2 survival flares. Mally swung. Vent hatch letting drone streak. 10 seconds later, twin flares detonated over runway. White suns dropping showers of magnesium. Hostiles scattered, visors blinded anew. Move. Ava signaled. They piled into Snowcat, an armored crawler meant for fuel shuttle. Bench seats limited capacity. Half-team clung to external rails behind steel snowplow. Engine coughed, then roared. Treads bit snow, lurching out back roller door. Boone forced. Arctic wind knifed faces. Ava took wheel. Mally manside gun hatch with salvaged carbine. Zoller squeezed next to drivetrain housing, eyes wide but steady. The crawler groaned onto service track paralleling runway, plunging into knee-deep powder that glittered under aurora veils. Behind, maintenance shed lit with muzzle strobe. Bullets pinned crawler hull. One tire on external sled burst. Occupant. Swore but held asterisk a comment. If you've ever felt winter sharpen your senses. Ava thought, muscles taut. She gun throttle. The snowcat labored, treads hissing. Nightingale's feed popped updates. Aggressor convoy reversing, headlights now swinging after snowcat. They'd realized prey was escaping. Meta, sitting at tablet, spoke. 2 jeeps, snow-rated, closing. From 6 o'clock, range 800 meters. Malley pivoted turret. A hydraulic dig arm retrofitted with floodlight. He aimed as blinder. No mounted gun, he muttered. Just deterrent. She shoved Malley aside as gunfire erupted. Bullets whipped snow spouts around her boots. Boom screamed, hit or startled. She couldn't know. She rolled behind boulder, pistol drawn but outgunned. Firestorm painted scene hellish orange. Overhead. Rotor thrum swelled. Spotlight pinned crawler wreckage, then swept left toward her position. Ava clenched jaw, steeled will. She had one flashbang left, one drone airborne, hundreds of calculations unfurling. But odds slimmed by the second. The spotlight froze on her silhouette. Loudspeaker barked English with Nordic accent. Engineer Sinclair. Surrender the AI cores. And no one else dies. Her breath caught. How did they know her name? Data leak? Her revoked license flagged? They tracked manifesto for mechanics? No time, she shouted back. Come take them. And hurled flashbang into beam. White shockwave lit ridge, spotlight drowned. Helicopter yawed, pilot blinded. Ava sprinted downslope through jagged ice, heart-pounding thunder. Behind, murk voices. Roared. A shot whizzed, tearing scarf from her neck. She stumbled, regained footing. Ridge narrowed to knife edge above fjord. Footfalls gained. She risked glance. 3 pursuers closing. Night vision conquered glare quickly. Fjord wind howled, flinging snow flurries that blurred depth. Ava reached cliff spur where ice bridge arched to outcrop narrow glazed. She slid across, boots scraping, arms wide for balance. Pursuers hesitated, fragile arch. Leader barked order. 2 spread flanking route. Ava reached outcrop. Knees soaking. No cover except spire of basalt rising like dagger. Helicopter banked, searchlight returning. She pressed back against rock, drawing breath laced with stinging cold. She felt small, mortal, but inside, fierce lineage stirred. Father's calm shot, mother's battlefield triage, her own years of silent competence, all converged. She unclipped Nightingale's controller from belt. Drone circled above, battery waning. She issued command. Dive to jamming mast on runway truck. Overload transmitter. Concatenate frequency enzymes until hardware fried. Suicide run. Nightingale chirped acknowledgement, banking into darkness. Pursuers. Resumed advance across ice bridge. Careful, rifles leveled. Nightingale struck truck antenna. Metal showered sparks. Jammer output spiked, then imploded. Feedback crack split silence. For 3 seconds, comms unjammed. Ava slammed SOS macro. Bursts across HF and SAT nets. Asterisk, asterisk, Archangel 4 down. Hostile extraction. SOS, asterisk, asterisk. She felt jammer shriek die. But rescue hearing radius unknown. Helicopter veered, receiving Nightingales. Thermal explosion pilot confused. Yet Merc leader pressed forward, now only 20 meters. Ava met his eyes through visor cold blue behind glass. He raised rifle. She had 4 rounds left. She spoke into roar, voice steel. 1 step more and ice takes us both. He smirked, foot sliding. Bridge groaned under combined loads. Crack. Ice. Sheet beneath Ava fissured, spider lines spreading under leader's boots. His smile faded. Another crack. Chasm yawned. Ava back to basalt spire, but ground sagged. She had seconds, wind-ripped hood, hair whipped. She locked gaze on leader. Choose. He lunged to fire. Ice bridge collapsed, world tilting. Ava leapt sideways, clawing for rock lip. Fingers caught narrow ledge. Pain tore shoulders. Below. Merc screamed as he and Ice Slab plunged into black fjord, rifle fire stuttering until swallowed by night. Snow rushed past as avalanche of shards cascaded. Helicopter spotlight lost her. Beam darting futileel dangled, numb fingers slipping. Above, basalt edge cut gloves, blood spotting ice. Boots kicked air. Cold bit bone. She heard Mally shout distant, indistinct. But edge crumbled under her weight. Grip failed. She fell, and impact never came. Something caught her. A rope loop cinched under arms, yanked tight. She gasped as body jerked. Mally's silhouette braced on ridge, rope around waist, anchored. Tapitan hammered into basalt. He hauled, boots scraping. Behind him, Boone applied second line. They pulled Ava over lip, collapsing together. She coughed, lungs burning. Mally grinned shaky. Couldn't let story end there. She managed a breathless laugh. Next time, bigger flashbang. Boom echoed a far maintenance shed's diesel stock finally igniting. Fireball lighting sky red. Snow hissed molten. Rain. Helicopter retreated from blast wave, rotor wash whirling sparks. Ava lay, heartbeat drumming. But Meta's voice crackled on handheld. HF channel open. Rescue bird inbound from Thule base, ETA 30, hold line. Relief washed crew's faces brief. Because surviving mercs regrouped by Ridge Jeep, mounting heavy gun. They wouldn't. Retreat empty-handed. Ava pushed to knees, scanning dwindling ammo. 30 minutes is a lifetime, she muttered. Mally followed her gaze, nodding grim. Let's make it count. He handed her spare magazine, only 12 rounds. She inserted, chambered. The wind carried merc engine roar as they advanced. Ava rose, battered, bloodied gloves tightening on pistol. Aurora shimmered overhead, a curtain of green hope. She spoke to Boone. Mally, Zoller overcomes. Stack fallback to cave, lay remote mines from Snowcat's kit. We delay until rescue or nothing. She took first step down ridge to face advancing headlights, mind framing odds, heart unwavering. Crackle sounded in her earpiece, unexpected, crisp, female voice. Archangel Ghost Hand, this is Valkyrie Actual. Hold your beacon, eyes on you. Ava froze. Code words her old call sign. Discontinued years ago. Only one person alive used that. Colonel Tamsin Ward. Her one-time flight mentor, now rumored missing in classified ops. Ava replied. Whisper trembling. Valkyrie Actual, authentication Tango 7 Echo, silence 2 beats. Then, confirmed. Package priority 1, stand by for extraction. Tractor on approach under radar. Tractor? She imagined stealth tilt-wing airframe with winch harness experimental. Relief mingled with confusion. Ward's involvement meant deeper layers, but Merc Jeep mounted heavy gun, muzzle blooming fire. Tracers sliced air, ricocheted sparks off basalt around Ava. She ducked, fired back, retreated. Boone lit improvised thermite charge, lobbed. Explosion showered Jeep and molten spray, forcing gunner back. A dull roar overhead signaled unknown aircraft. Cresting ridge black wedge against stars. Engines whisper, quiet. It hovered, lowering carbon fiber cable with claw harness. 2 figures rappled from belly opera of precision. Aurora light haloed them like mythic warriors. Merc saw, opened fire. Spark trails traced sky. 1 rappel rope severed. Operator. Plunged, deploying mini chute, vanishing behind ridge. Second operator swung under craft, sliding an arc toward Ava's group while trading suppressed bursts. He landed, visor flipping. Through frost, Ava recognized Ward's angular jaw. Ward strode, voice low. "Good to see you flying again, Ghost Hand. Let's wrap." Ava blinked, emotion surging. "Likewise, ma'am. We're low on everything." Ward. Unslung compact rail rifle, magnetic coils humming. "I've got plenty." Together they advanced, flanking mercs pinned by thermite flames. Helicopter re-engaged, diving with rocket pods. Ward aimed skyward, single-shot the slug-tor rotor. Mast, chopper spun, spiraling into fjord with explosive bloom that lit glacier faces. Merc morale cracked. Some fled to dark. Others fought on desperation. Ava's side pressed advantage, retaking ridge. Zoller led evac group toward extraction craft's wind zone while Mali laid cover fire. Yet as victory neared, a new threat surfaced. Drone controller. Beeped third drone still in crate activated autonomously, climbing sky. Screen displayed hijack protocol. External user seizing control. Its cargo? Fibrin foam, but relay could be repurposed into airborne bomb. Unknown hand-steered drone. Toward extraction craft. Ava sprinted to crate, but signal override locked her out. Ward saw screen, cursed. EMP slug spent. Ava's eyes narrowed. Only manual intercept possible. She would have to leap to drone mid-air. Impossible. But there was runway fuel trucks, oxygen tanks create shockwave. Too messy, she checked. Battery on pistol hopeless. Then she recalled the torque wrench bridging circuit earlier, still in pocket steel and battery cell. She could overcharge and throw, create localized EMP burst if struck drone within 5 meters. Accuracy near 0. But father's timing, whirled in hails. Drone buzzed overhead, 40 meters up, descending toward craft. Ava climbed boulder, wind howling. She spun wrench sleeve, priming battery to short. Sparks of LICK. Ward shouted. "Sinclair, don't." But Ava already hurled improvised javelin. Wrench arced, tumbling, sparks trailing comet tail. It struck drone's carbon wing root. Flash of blue corona, then pop. Drone spiraled, motor stalling. It fell not away but directly toward Ava. She dove, snow blasting as hardware crashed beside, cycling beeps. Payload container cracked. Timer blinking red-armed by impact. 5 seconds. Ava stared at beeping module the size of shoebox. Viscous chemical cocktail primed to react violently. She tried to move but leg pinned by debris. Ward sprinted but distance too great. 4. Ava single quotes, S breath plumed. Asterisk droppa, if you've ever stared down your own creation. She mused darkly. 3. She grabbed module, muscles screaming, and hurled. It over cliff, arm ligaments tore. Module sailed, vanishing. 2. Ava rolled, shielding head. Blast erupted mid-air, fiery waterfall illuminating fjord. Shockwave battered ridge. Snow billowed. Silence heavy after thunder. Ward reached her, helping upright. Ava winced, leg bleeding, jacket scorched. Valkyrie craft hovered lower, winches. Spinning. Zoller's group already loading. Mali waved frantic for them. Ward pressed hand to Ava's shoulder. Time to go. Ava nodded, limped toward cable. Pain lanced, but adrenaline carried. They clipped harness, ascended toward belly. Bay. As metal ramp closed, shots pinned hull last Merc defiance. The Valkyrie X bucked like a wounded hawk, starboard turbofan coughing fire as Ava slammed into the cockpit. Smoke coiled, alarms blared, and red LEDs strobed warnings across every surface, but she saw past the chaos to the clean, unlabeled stick that waited for a human hand. Pilot unconscious. The co-pilot shouted, knuckles white on a useless side stick. Controls unresponsive on right bank. Ava shoved him aside with apology in her eyes. She slid into the central command seat, harness clicking, and wrapped fingers around the composite. Yoke, her pulse steadied. The moment skin touched carbon grip, the aircraft's remaining flight assist subroutines recognized her. Ghost, hand, clearance accepted. A klaxon howled that the starboard engine was gone. Hydraulic pressure bled fast. The craft rolled right, nose dipping toward a swarm of Fenrir attack drones, angling for a kill shot. Their fuselages flashed matte black against dawn's indigo. Each carried tandem thermite darts designed to pierce armor, melt circuitry, and leave no survivors. Ava keyed into mic. All hands brace. I'm taking manual. Ward countermeasures? Colonel Ward's voice cut through static. Flares cycling, chaff depleted. We've one EMP pouch in bay. Use wisely. Ava counted the drones 7, fanning like falcons. She trimmed with the good engine, force-feeding extra fuel, and felt the craft shudder as asymmetrical thrust fought drag. Altitude, 11,200 and falling. Icefield glittered below. The sea roared beneath its crust. Asterisk droppa, if you've ever steered into catastrophe to dodge disaster, asterisk, she thought, and pushed the Valkyrie into a steep port dive. The sudden negative G flung loose gear sealing Ward. Medkits and ration packs rained through cabin nets. Behind her, Boone yelped, but he and Mally secured passengers with cargo straps freshly scavenged from the Snowcat. A drone overshot, missing with its darts. 2 more descended to bracket them, but they misjudged Ava's insane angle. Their sensors expected algorithmic evasions, not a human's reckless intuition. She rolled inverted, corkscrewed beneath them, and sunlight flashed. Off her canopy like a blade. Tappa, if you feel that surge. Mally's booming cheer echoed the cabin, half humor, half defiance, and hearts steadied. Yet one drone clung close, its targeting laser painting the wounded turbofan. Ward crouched at the bay hatch, EMP satchel primed. Distance 15 meters. She barked. Wait for my flare, Ava said. She yanked the stick, skidding sideways. The Valkyrie's aft fins whined at structural limits. At 8 meters, Ava toggled an emergency beacon strobe bright enough to blind. Ward hurled the satchel into slipstream. Electric blue pulse blossomed, devouring the drone in a splash of arcing light. Shrapnel rattled hull. 6 left, but they wavered, formation broken. Ava shot through their gap, throttle to detent on port engine, climbing hard. Altitude 9,500. She needed cloud cover or ground shelter, both scarce over open ice. Meta, pale yet analytical, appeared at cockpit threshold with a salvage tablet. Forward sensors show ice canyon 4 clicks north walls 70 meters high. Could mask us. Plot vector, Ava said. She feathered the ruined turbofan, sealing fuel valves, then engaged glide profile. The aircraft shivered but obeyed, a single-winged angel patched with duct tape and faith. Their pursuers adapted. 2 drones surged ahead, relaying coordinates to a Fenrir command rig somewhere beyond horizon. Ava glimpsed a thin contrail far to the west, likely the flagship transport carrying stolen AI cores. Objective still fleeing. Inside, passengers tightened blankets, tending wounds. Zoller checked on each, voice firm, nowhere near the pompous officer she first met. Growth forged under fire. Boone flashed her a thumbs up from aisle. In his lap, Nightingale's burned carcass lay like a fallen phoenix, but he harvested its memory chip. Data could expose Fenrir networks later if they lived. Ice Canyon loomed, a white-blue chasm carved by millennia of glacial creep. Ava dropped flaps manually, hearing servos protest. She descended at knife edge, wings grazing canyon lip. Frost-blasted windows. The cabin filled with pale light refracted from crystalline walls. The Valkyrie skimmed the gorge floor, mere meters. Above, rioting snow. Drones followed but struggled. Their autopilots jittered, overcorrecting off canyon walls. One clipped ice and exploded. Another lost signal as walls blocked come. It spiraled out. 4 remaining shrank back, hovering high. To reacquire lock. Altitude stable, Meta reported. Relief tinged his tone for first time. Ava risked a nod. Ward, damage survey. Ward's reply. Hull stable but engine bay fire suppressant low. Cargo ramp jammed halfway. Ava's eyes narrowed at instrument cluster where port fuel gauge. Dip too quickly. We're venting. We can't chase Fenrir flagship until we land and patch. Mally entered cockpit, carbine slung. Ground here is fracture prone. We need solid bedrock, Meta tapped map. Canyon exits onto nut attack ridge bare rock amid glacier. Could set down. Decision formed. Ava announced. Prepare emergency landing on ridge. Once down, rapid patch, then pursuit. Drones will. Dive when we stop, be ready. She lined approach to sunlit outcrop jutting through ice like a whale's back. Slope gentle but mottled with snowdrifts hiding boulders. She extended landing gear. Right strut indicator flickered uncertain. No time. She kissed ridge with rear skids first. Shock transmitted through every rib, but craft settled. Sliding 50 meters before halting at cliff lip. The world fell still except distant whine of circling drones. Asterisk. Comment if you've ever skidded to a stop on pure hope. Asterisk, she thought, unbuckling. Crew spilled out. Boots crunching snow. Air burned lungs at -30, but crystal sun ignited morale. Ward, Mally, and Boone lugged tool crates to gaping engine bay, while Zoller rallied passengers into defensive perimeter behind ice hummocks. Ava climbed ladder into nacelle, kneeling among scorched cables. She used her sonic torque wrench refitted. After its heroic EMP cameo to unbolt flame shields, hands raw from cold. She swapped burned feed line with spare hydraulic hose, clamping leaks. Mally sprayed sealant foam that froze instant, patching fuselage cuts. Above, drone swooped, testing. Range, Ward calibrating rail rifle yelled, 30 seconds until they dive. We need roof guns. No guns, Ava muttered. But we have mirrors. She pointed to stainless internal panels ripped from galley earlier. Boone and 2 trainees mounted them on poles, creating improvised heliographs, when first drone stooped. Sunlight reflected off mirror cluster, blinding optical sensors. It veered, smashed canyon wall. Mirrors turned, dazzling second drone. It clipped ridge, engine failing. 2 left. Ward tagged third with rail slug through fuselage. Last drone retreated, circling high. Ava slid from the cell, wiping grease. Engine. Patched but throttle response will lag. Should hold 30 minutes of flight. Ward wiped sweat crystallizing on brow. Plenty. Fenrir flagship vector. Boone piped up, waving Nightingale chip connected to tablet. Intercepted telemetry, hugging magnetic north corridor, 50 clicks west, speed 200 knots on ground effect skimmer. Ava grinned despite fatigue. Then we hunt. Takeoff from ridge demanded faith. Ava revved port engine to 110%. Frame rattled. She angled nose down canyon slope, using gravity to aid lift. Runners scraped rock, sparks trailing, then. Wings bit air and the Valkyrie climbed. Perseverance made steel. Last drone shadowed, but Mally manned mirror cluster from rear ramp, flashing coated sunbeams. The drone, confused, hung back. Eventually its control AI likely recalled risk and withdrew. They were free for the moment. 20 minutes later, ice sheet parted to reveal Fenrir flagship, a low-slung hovercraft the size of a ferry, dark. Hull etched with heat ducts shimmering. 2 escort skimmers flanked it, turreted autocannons scanning horizon. Crates I-cores were visible in open deck containers under canvas tarps. Ava circled at distance, terrain masking radar. She consulted. Fuel, precarious but doable for one strike. Ward drew up assault plan. Pierce escort, Disable flagship engines. Board. Reclaim cores. Simplicity bred from desperation. They had limited munitions. Ward's rail rifle with 10 slugs. Malley's carbine with 2 mags. Boone's drone controller now repurposed to remote falsified IFF signals. Plus Ava's ingenuity. She angled descent. To Ward fog bank hugging surface, using thermal inversion to hide. At 200 feet, she leveled behind flagship stern. Hovercraft fans throbbed loud. Crew on deck wore therm suits, oblivious. Ava opened ramp hatch. Ward and Malley, tethered, stepped onto it with grapnels. As Valkyrie skimmed low overhead, they leapt, cables singing, landing atop canvas crates. Ward rolled, rifle up. Malley cut power cables to starboard turret before gunner noticed. Sparks flew. Ava climbed, banking wide for second pass. Zoller manned cockpit seat 2, monitoring comes. He spotted port turret slewing toward Ward. Watch left. He yelled over open channel. Ward ducked. Slug from turret clipped crate, sending carbon fragments. She fired back, rail slug piercing turret optics. It sparked, drooped. Malley unlatched. Crate locks revealing I-core cylinders glowing with coolant frost. They hoisted first onto grapnel hook. Ava hovered, winched it aboard. One down. But escort skimmers peeled off, targeting Valkyrie with SAM pods. Warning shrieked. Ava jinked. First missile roared past. Second tracked. She dumped flares, none left. Missile reacquired. She dived to surface, skimming ice mere meters away. Missile followed, shockwave lifting snow plume. Ava banked into narrow crevasse. Missile clipped rim, detonated. The blast wave rocked Valkyrie, but she held. Fuel warning chimed 15%. Ava exhaled. She had one tool, the broken starboard engine now rigged with emergency jettison bolts for safety. She armed bolts, set engine casing to blow outward. Then she banked Valkyrie alongside flagship at height of deck rail. She triggered jettison. Burnt turbofan detached, cartwheeling into escort skimmer, smashing cockpit. Skimmer veered, crashed into ice ridge, exploding. Secondary blast rocked flagship, knocking Fenrir shooters flat. Ward and Malley seized moment, clipped last core to winch. Ava hauled, cable groaning. Shots ricocheted off winch housing. One snapped line strand but held. Escort number 2 accelerated, ramming move. Its prow slammed Valkyrie's rear quarter, shearing mirror cluster and buckling ramp. Zoller tumbled, barely catching rail. Ava fought controls, port engine whining near stall. Collision jarred cargo strap, lasty I-core jittering over edge. Boone lunged, grabbing harness ring, muscles straining. Inside flagship, Fenrir captain tall. Woman with silver visor aimed handheld RPG at Valkyrie's belly. Ava locked eyes across gap, time slowed, rookie or veteran. By stance professional. She fired. Ava rolled hard. Rocket streaked under wing, slamming escort's engine. Both exploded in chain reaction. Fireball engulfed deck, forcing Ward and Malley to dive into Valkyrie's bay as ramp twisted. Ramp motors jammed, leaving gaping maw where Arctic wind howled. Inside, flames licked hydraulic lines. Climb, climb. Ward shouted. Ava yanked yoke. Valkyrie clawed sky, leaving wreckage. Burning. Ice sheet cracked, hovercraft sinking. Fenrir survivors scattered like ants, but victory hollowed. Fuel 8%. Starboard engine gone, ramp stuck open, cabin electronics fried. And horizon shimmered with stormfront returning, roiling gray across. White desert, Meta's voice shook. Nearest base Thule 150 clicks north. Impossible on fuel. Ava set jaw. We glide and pray. Ward approached cockpit, eyes burning bright. We have Ajay cores, yes, but Fenrir will scramble intercept. Jets, we need exfil beyond their reach. Ava's mind raced. The glacier beneath housed old Cold War listening posts. One, Cody named Echo Depth. She read about it once. Sealed tunnels, nuclear-powered backup systems rumored intact. If they could land on ice ridge above vent tunnel, they could hide. Refuel from integral reactor synth loops. She checked maps. Echo Depth within 40 clicks, across maze of crevasses. She plotted descent curve, maximizing glide. Fuel would feed last thrust for final flare, she announced plan. Crew accepted no better options. Tappa, if you've ever trusted legends to save you, she mused. Twilight swallowed sun. Storm overtook them, sheets of snow blotting world. Instruments frosted. Ava flew by instinct. Faint stars glimpsed through swirl. Compass twitchy near magnetic pole. But her father's lessons guided. Port engine sputtered fuel starvation. She kept idle, saving drops for landing burst. Altitude 2,000 feet. Ahead, a break in storm revealed sunken valley and odd geometric mound. Echo Depth's ventilation stack. But between them yawned canyon of serrated ice. She calculated glide. Path aligned if she sacrificed speed, but no go-around possible. She feathered flaps. Hull vibrated. Cabin silent except prayers. At 300 feet, she fed last fuel engine roared then died. Valkyrie floated, heavy and majestic. Skid struck soft snow, carving furrow. They slowed, but slope ended at canyon rim. Brakes inactive. Momentum dragged them toward abyss. Hold on. Ava yelled. She deployed forward gear struts like claws. They bit ice, snapped, but drag reduced speed. Edge approached 20 meters, 10 dot at 5 meters. Ava twisted yoke full left. Hull yawed tail. Swinging. They slewed sideways. Stopped with starboard wingtip hanging over void. Silence, except wind. They lived. Inside cabin. Cheers mixed with sobs. Ava exhaled, forehead on cold glass. Then she saw distant lights flicker through snow twin search beams. Scanning, Fenrir aerial scouts inbound. Ward rested hand on her shoulder. Into the tunnels, we drag what we can. They disembarked, hauling a I-cores on sleds fashioned from paneling. Boone rigged beacon decoy inside Valkyrie, wiring fuel cell to overload on tamper. Mally set proximity mines at path. They trudged toward ventilation stack, gusts howling. Zoller led with thermal scope. Meta mapped echoing air currents to find. Door seal. At base of stack, they located rusted hatch half buried in snow. Ava pried with torque wrench. Hinges screamed, then relented. Warm air smelling of ozone wafted reactor still alive. They slipped inside darkness. Lamps flickered via motion sensors dormant decades. Tunnel sloped deep, walls lined with frost-coated cables. Titan doors sealed passages ahead. Cold War. Blast bulkheads. Behind them, muffled boom. Fenrir scout missile hitting Valkyrie decoy. Explosion illuminated night through hatch seam. Sensors detected blast. Internal alarms echoed chime. Lockdown protocol initiated. Blast doors began sliding shut, chewing seconds. Ava shouted, "Move!" They shoved sleds, boots skidding. As final. Door thundered down, Ava dove, rolling under gap with cores hover crate cable in grasp. Door slammed, sealing them in pitch dark. Red emergency strips blinked, revealing cavernous chamber where reactor turbine hummed like sleeping beast. Unfamiliar. Consoles glowed faint cipher amber. Old signage read, Echo Depth Control, Clearance Omega. Boone whistled low. Places alive, Ward scanned chamber. We refuel, repair comes, prep broadcast, but Fenrir will attempt breach. Zoller examined door mechanism. These seals can hold hours maybe. Ava surveyed control panels, eyes glittering with challenge. Let's make Echo Depth sing louder than Fenrir can scream. Yet a tremor shook floor internal, not external. Reactors rarely tremble unless unstable. Gauges showed coolant cycle alert. Decades of neglect brewing meltdown. Mally groaned. Of course. Ward smirked despite grimness. We fix reactor while fortifying. Ava cracked knuckles. And if we fail? Meta answered, voice hushed. We'll light the Arctic sky brighter than any aurora. Their gazes met agreement forged in peril. From corridor speaker, synthetic voice crackled, decades old yet clear. Unauthorized entry detected. Scram sequence -1 hour. Countdown commenced. Ava inhaled, squaring shoulders. She hoisted. Toolkit, stepping toward reactor core access port, determination flaring. Then we have 59 minutes to save more than ourselves. The speaker clicked, and in that hollow silence, they heard distant thuds. Fenrir breachers ramming outer hatch. The race had begun within and without. A double crucible. Snowmelt dripped from Ava's hair as she set first valve wrench. Every sense ablaze. The lights dimmed. Cliffhanger. Darkness swallowed the reactor hall as the overhead lamps flickered out, leaving only the thin blood-red ropes of emergency LEDs snaking along the grated catwalks. Ava's pupils dilated, pulling in every photon while her breathing steadied. To the metronome of a distant coolant pump coughing itself awake again. 59 minutes, the automated voice had said. Now the chronometer stenciled on her head's up wrist patch read 58 to 12. And bleeding down, she swung her flashlight arc. Across the chamber, the reactor tower rose like a stone obelisk, its graphite moderation sleeves furred over with 2 decades of mineral frost. Steam hissed through breech seals in penitent wisps, as though old ghosts sought absolution in the frigid air. Under a grated service deck, thermal conduits pulsed a faint cherry glow, proof that the sodium-potassium loop still circulated, albeit sluggish and starved of control oversight. Beside her, Boone slid a portable fission dosimeter from his rucksack, the needle jittering near the green zone. We're safe for now, but if those override rods slip even a hair, this whole vault goes prompt critical, he whispered, fog clouding his visor. Lieutenant Mally had already taken a knee at the bulkhead interlock screen. His breath showed as faint mist while he thumbed a cracked touch panel. Outer hatch integrity down to 81%, he muttered. Fenrir breachers are chewing plasma torches into the secondary door. We've got maybe 40 minutes until they punch through, if we don't beef the locks. Ward appeared from the stairwell, carrying the longest pry bar Ava had ever seen in a base like this, improvised from a heat exchanger rod. That our timelines overlap. Reactor scram equals 49 remaining. Fenrir breach around 40. Our job beat them both before the world becomes a crater. Ava cinched her gloves, flexing fingers to restore blood. We split tasks, she said, raising her voice so it traveled along the metal ribs overhead. Boone and I stabilize the core, and Jury rig a micro-refuel for the Valkyrie. Mally leads perimeter defense with those who can shoot. Ward, you coordinate. As liaison signal rescue once we get Echo Depth's uplink antenna spun to the sky. Zoller, she paused, eyes locking on the officer as he inspected a rusted utility locker. Gone was the arrogance. Fatigue now etched salt into his temples. Zoller, you've got the II cores. Protect them like humanity's last savings account. We'll need at least one awakened to remote pilot the med drones we saved. There are eyes and hands inside this labyrinth. Zoller snapped a salute formal, yet sincere. He pried open the locker, revealing rows of dusty radiation suits and a stash of decades-expired MREs, then set about converting the interior into a barricaded cradle for the cores. Droppa, if you've ever been tasked with saving more than your own hide, Ava muttered, half to herself, channeling a fragile humor that steadied her pulse. -57 to 10. They set to work. Ava scaled the grated ladder encircling the reactor. Drum. Frost stung her knuckles through fraying insulation, but she climbed until the control collar came into view, an octagonal dais, bristling with lever handles and pneumatic gauge clusters. Core Delta rising, she reported, reading an outdated analog dial. Coolant loop A is starving. Loop B stopped, outright pressure regulator jammed. Boone, flush B manually from reservoir tank. I'll triple bypass A through the old servo lane. Boone's reply crackled over short-range com. Copy, but servo lane's valve tree is fused with ice. It'll take heat and muscle. Then I'll bring both, she answered Dot with her left hand. Ava unclipped the sonic torque wrench, her faithful multi-tool turned Swiss Army miracle. The lithium cell still carried residual charge from the EMP burst, enough to vibrate bolts free if coaxed. Carefully, she applied its stubby head to the main flange and pulsed at 22 kHz. Frost shattered like brittle sugar. The valve wheel groaned, then spun half a revolution. A plume of superheated steam belched out, ruffling her hair, but lines on the pressure. Gauge dipped from the red cusp back toward amber. Meanwhile, Boone had reached the ground floor reservoir. He carved through calcified sealant with a plasma bit, then inserted an emergency hydraulic jack to pump viscous knack metal along dormant pipes. The mix gurgled like molten silver under dull lighting. Ava watched gauge needles bounce as flow returned imperfect, but promising. 56 minutes and 3 seconds. From 2 decks below, Malley's rifle barked. The sound echoed ricochets up steel girders. Contact on service tunnel Delta, he radioed. Fenrir scouts found an intake shaft. Minor skirmish, but they know we're dug in. Hold at choke points, Ward commanded. She stood at a rusted command console, tapping an override string into what looked like a 1980s MS-DOS prompt. Unsealing tertiary passages and venting halon into compartments they breach. Non-lethal, but it'll buy time. Ava lost track of each minute after that. Her world narrowed to pressure regulators and heat exchangers, to the cadence of Boone's curses and the vibration of distant firefights. The emergency bulbs hummed their red lament overhead, a heartbeat for the bunker. Still she felt strangely calm. Every fix, every bolt turned, was a note in the mechanical symphony she'd conducted her entire grounded life. She recalled evenings in the Sinclair garage, her father teaching her to hone a trigger pulled to the micropause just before it broke, her mother shining surgical lamps over shattered bone, the smell of antiseptic and gun oil blending into a single scent that felt like home. They'd taught her that mastery lay in details unremarkable to most: the half-Newton torque, the extra suture loop, the minute star in Orion when all else looked black. 55:17. Loop B flowing at 40%. Boone reported, but leak at. Flange 3 oozing coolant, hissing, pressure dropping again. Ava braced her boots and shimmied down a diagonal catwalk to his level. A silver snake of liquid metal hissed across the floor, each droplet hot enough to blister flesh. She grabbed a carbon fiber chisel, chipped frost off a quick clamp cuff, and hammered it over the breach. Boone tightened with wrench until hiss dulled to whisper. "We're stable," she breathed. Parallel front lines Malley's defenders faced. Relentless pressure. A series of low seismic thuds rattled dust from vents. In the dim corridor, Malley replaced his empty mag, while Boone's improvised turret, drone-piloted from the med controller, sprayed suppressive pulses of rubber-bladed flechettes. Fenrir returned fire with plasma cutters repurposed as cannons, carving glowing hieroglyphs into walls. Ward recognized pattern. She keyed PA. "Everyone who can handle heat suits, relocate to convection shaft Epsilon. That's our funnel. They'll breach soon." Ava glanced at timer. 48 minutes and 32 seconds. She tapped her wrist patch to Boone. "We've got a buffer now. Let's deliver power to the Valkyrie fuel cells before the next spike." They hefted 2 modular transformer bricks, each the size of a microwave, toward an auxiliary output manifold. Through reinforced hallway viewports, Ava watched the Valkyrie's silhouette perched along the canyon lip, starboard wing still hanging but fuselage otherwise intact. A blizzard roared. Outside, Brush stroking the craft with razor sheets. If they could run a high-voltage cable up the vent shaft, they'd trickle-charge the Valkyrie enough to spin its APU, maybe to taxi distance. Boone latched the transformer onto a feed rail. Ava flipped breakers. Blue sparks lit the corridor. The hum of power surged like blood returning to a numbed limb. Outside, she thought she glimpsed the Valkyrie's beacon light flicker to life, one heartbeat. Then dim. 47 minutes and 5 seconds. The reactor's coolant loops groaned but held. She turned to Boone, smile thin. "Half a tank for the bird if we don't melt first." He smiled back, face ash smudged. "Better odds than we had." Across the hall, Zoller positioned the I-cores in a rough triangle, cables bridging them. He'd found a feedback coupler in Echo Depth's archives, a dusty crate labeled Quantum Enger Bus. Plugging it allowed cores to share compute cycles. He whispered like a priest amid icons as he sensed them. Lights on cylinders pulsed alive. A feminine voice, soft, clipped British accent spoke from a nearby audio node. "Please authenticate." Zoller stammered name and rank. The I accepted, and for a moment a hush descended over the bunker as the system recognized its new environment. "Priority?" The AI asked. Zoller's eyes flicked to Ava. She nodded. "Oversight scope, defense assist, reactor advisory, remote vectored targeting." The I processed. Defensive subsystems engaged. At 45 to 11, Malley's front collapsed. Plasma charges detonated the secondary hatch, and Fenrir strike team surged inside 8 operators clad in white carbon armor, assault rifles barking. Subsonic rounds. Halon mist hindered them, but they deployed counter-chem flares clearing path. Malley's squad retreated along a catwalk rigged with satchel mines. He hit the pressure plate. 2 mercs vanished in blue light. Ward radioed Ava. "They're inside containment ring, Deck 9. I've got maybe 10 riflemen to hold. Reactor status?" "Nominal parameters but fragile," Ava answered. Ward's voice husky. "Hold line for 20 minutes. After that, I'll blow stairwells." Ava knew what that meant. Trade structural integrity for time.-42 colon 02. The ground shook. Fenrir deployed a micro-tank drone, tracks winding across steel. It sported a rotary grenade launcher. Malley ducked as shells detonated along scaffolding. Shrapnel showering his team. He cursed, pinned behind a generator coil. In the command alcove, Ward interfaced with Echo Depth's archaic satellite dish rig. Waveguide corroded. "Needs realignment," she said. Zoller offered. "Med drones have micro-thrusters. We can station one outside to manually pivot." "Dish by physical push," Ward nodded. "Then do it. And broadcast on 243.0 meg International Guard channel." He complied. Meanwhile, Fenrir commandos regrouped, breaching level 8 hatch. Beyond that door lay a single walkway leading to core collar. Ava realized if they captured that vantage, they could sabotage cooling and force meltdown as blackmail. She radioed Malley. "Set fallback to Girder Lu 9. I'll mine Corridor B." With Boone's help, she pulled shaped charges from crate and pinned them under catwalk grate. Timer remote 2 toggles. Fail, safe detach, manual trigger. 35 minutes and 0 seconds. Fenrir voices echoed, echoing boot stomps. Engines from their vibro cutter whined. Ava retreated. Malley's squad crouched across chamber, rifles readied. Then, a hush too. Quiet. Ava felt dread. She signaled countdown with fingers. 3, 2. The hatch burst inward, but nothing came through. Instead, a small spherical camera drifted Fenrir recon orb. It captured the explosives. They wouldn't charge into kill box now, Malley spat. Ava cursed softly. She toggled remote, adjusting to proximity det. They withdrew deeper. 33 minutes and 22 seconds. Reactor hummed stable. Fuel transfer reached 60% of requested. Outside, blizzard abated. Valkyrie's battery now ticked upward. Ward received faint transmission response. UN Thule Ops call sign outpost. Indy reading you 2x5. Identify. She replied with encryption code. Relief fluttered, but Fenrir also likely heard. They redoubled push. A massive breacher tool looks like road header appeared. It chewed walkway supports. Mali's expletive soared. Ava realized Catwalk would fall onto core coolant pipes if detonated wrong, causing meltdown. She ran, sliding under handrails, snatching det remote. She changed blast vector to downward shaped but angled away from pipes. Precious seconds. She glimpsed Merc with flame rifle taking aim at her. She ducked, remote beeping in her grip. Asterisk Tappa, if precision under gunfire gets your pulse racing. She thought, heart pounding. She triggered. Explosion rippled, Catwalk collapsed sideways. Crushing breacher and Mercs, but missing pipes by inches. Chamber shook. Coolant sloshed but held. 32 minutes and 0 seconds. Her ears rang. She staggered back, vision blurry. Mali grabbed her vest, dragged her to cover. In a eye cradle, Zoller's cores buzzed. The AI whispered. Unauthorized kernel handshake detected. Someone inside network attempting override. Ava heard overcome. Trace source, she said. Screens highlighted origin internal handheld device under designator MCC Alpha. Boone recognized. That's my med controller. Suddenly its screen flickered. Code rewriting. It was being hijacked. A new voicemail. Gravelly came over general channel. Give us the cores and walk away, Sinclair. You know our leverage. Ava froze. She knew that voice. Major Eric Cade, ex-Special Forces turned privateer. Once served under her father, dishonorably discharged. He disappeared years ago. He ran Fenrir now. Cade, she growled. You're on ice too thin to crawl off. His laugh echoed. Let it break. Without our melt-off funds, those I-cores, your beloved Valkyrie rots. Reactor goes boom. We'll remote fly a skimmer in, scoop what remains. Ward interjected. UN assets en route. You won't escape. UN? He scoffed. By the time they arrive, this origin point will be a new fjord. Then silence. Ward and Ava exchanged looks. Boone stared at his hijacked controller. The AI reported. Cade has inserted kernel worm. External override in 300 seconds. Ava realized Cade planned to turn med drone thrusters into shaped charges inside the core cradle. Wipe cores. If he couldn't take them, deny them to UN, and still bury evidence. By causing meltdown. She raced to cradle. Zoller guarding with pistol. We must isolate cores from network. Purge worm, she said. If we cut link, we lose AI defense, Zoller warned. If we don't, they cook us. She pulled override plugs, manually moving cores onto offline loop. A eye flickered. Voice softened into dormant hum. She tossed compromised controller into containment barrel, sealed lead lid. Now we defend with flesh, she said. The bunker lights dimmed again. Speaker voice returned. Coolant pump failure in 40 seconds. Boone shouted. Loop B seized. Ice crystals from breach contaminant. Ava's mind sprinted only fix. Purge loop B entirely. Feed loop A double duty, but risk hotspots. She weighed odds, 29 minutes and 31 seconds. Fenrir breachers resumed cutting. Ward ordered fallback to core collar. All hands huddled, final stand. Zoller equipped each able body with captured Fenrir plasma sidearms. Sparks rained as torches carved circles in blast. Ava shed jacket for mobility, revealing sniper tabs stitched inside lining. She brushed it, seeking father's calm. Asterisk drop a, if memories keep you steady when reality tilts. She whispered. She toggled pump override on loop B purge. Pumps whined, venting super hot knack into overflow traps. The room temperature spiked. Steam billowed. Gauge on loop. A dance dot. She applied full power to big loop. Coolant poured, but heat soared. Control rods needed deeper insertion, but manual. Crank stuck. She grabbed wheel, turned stubborn. Boom joined, adding muscle. It budged a centimeter. Alarm silenced. Gradient fell to safe range. Cheers but short-lived. Blast door glowed orange. Final plate giving in. Ward tapped Ava's shoulder. Time to choose, hold door or retreat behind core shield. Ava looked to AI core's world's future and a reactor world's present. We do both, she said. She handed Mally remote for charges set around corridor. Blow once we fall back. They retreated past core column, erecting emergency bulkheads. Mally stayed front, finger on remote, door breached. Kay himself stepped through, visor up, rifle leveled. Stand down, he barked. Ava emerged from steam, hands empty but eyes blazing. Eric, still chasing scraps yet calling them fortune? I chase what power remains after bureaucrats choke progress, he retorted. His men fanned out. Ava signaled Mally subtle. He clicked remote. Charges blew. Walkway crumbled under Mercs. 3 fell into coolant trench, screaming as knack ignited on oxygen. Cade stumbled but regained footing. He fired. Ava dove behind pillar. Bullet chipping graphite sleeve. Gunfire furious. Ward's rail rifle sang, piercing armor. Echoing clang signaled ricochet. She clipped power cell on Mercsuit, exploded like flare. Cade threw smoke grenade. Chamber filled with gray bile, IR optics useless amid heat haze. Ava switched to audio footsteps, breathing, click of magazine. She moved silent, crouching. She glimpsed Cade approaching a eye cradle, intending theft. She lunged, tackling him. They crashed onto grating. His rifle skittered away. He flipped her, fist hammering chest plate. She elbowed his throat. They grappled in swirling smoke, edges of great biting skin. He snarled, Sinclair legacy dies here. She bared teeth. Sinclair legacy stands on what we build, not steel. She head-butted visor. Glass cracked. He staggered. She rolled. Grabbed torque wrench from belt, swung. It connected with his exojoint, knee buckled. But he produced combat knife. Slash catching her forearm, blood spattering. She hissed, backpedaled. Siren screamed. Core overheated automatic scram blocked manual override required. Loop A's extra load reached limit. Boone shouted. Rod motor seized again. He tried crank, but without belt. Ava saw only path. Remote rod drive via servo motor down walkway behind Cade. She had to reach panel past him. Cade raised pistol. Aimed at Boone. Ava threw torque wrench spiraled through steam, smacking gun aside. She dashed, body low, sliding under his grasp, towards servo panel. He lunged, catching her ankle. She kicked, boot heel cracking his visor fully. She reached panel, yanking cover, wires sparking. She hot-wired motor with jumper leads. Servo word, rods sank deeper. Temperature gauge fell. Meltdown averted for now. Cade roared, half blind. He unholstered micro-explosive, aimed at I-cores. Ava's heart seized. She yanked fire suppression lever. Halon blast hit Cade, freezing his visor. He stumbled, dropping charge. It rolled. Towards coolant trench. Boom trench, wall breached. Knack spurted into air, igniting bright white. Fireball roared. Pressure wave flung everyone. Ava smashed against pillar, world spinning. When she rose, Cade was gone, either flung into shadows or fled. Flames licked walkway. Mally dragged 2 injured recruits back. Ward's voice. Outer hatch compromised again. More hostiles inbound, our defense line shrinking. Ava staggered to her eye cradle. Cores intact. She patched Sinclair blood-soaked sleeve. Typed into console. Activate remote flight autopilot on Valkyrie. Route to Echo Depth Roof for AVAC. AI responded. APU online. Fuel transfer at 80% done. Then AI flashed. External. Valkyrie sensor. Inbound missile lock 5 seconds. Ava's breath stilled. Fenrir outside targeted grounded craft. She turned to Ward. They're about to erase our ride, Ward cursed. Countermeasures depleted. Zoller cried. Launch Valkyrie, now escape remote. But autopilot still warming. Ava made decision. Manual override. Someone had to sprint to surface. Start craft under missile crosshairs. She grabbed flight gloves, bleeding arm screaming. I'll go. Keep cores safe, Mally protested. She shook head. She sprinted down auxiliary shaft lit by red strobes, ascending rust ladders 4 levels, lungs burning. Missile alarm beeped faster. She burst into glass cold, blizzard biting face. Valkyrie sat at cliff. APU whine rising. She leapt under ramp ruins, slid to cockpit. She powered displays. Port engine idle but starboard gone. She prayed patch lines. Held, toggled throttle. Missile smoke trail, visible through snow, weaving. She keyed seatbelt, engaged thrust. Craft shuddered forward. Ground rumbled. Blast door behind her cracked as Fenrir reinforcements reached rooftop. T-unknown. She lifted nose, just clearing snowbank. Missile closed. Asterisk tap A if you feel your heartbeat sync with engines. She muttered. She kicked rudder, dumping chaff-less flare. Nothing. She rolled Valkyrie sideways along canyon wall, scraping paint, missile tracking heat flares from burning neck below. It swerved, confused, but second missile launched, fuel low. Only vertical boost left. She pulled up, engines wailing. Altitude 300 feet. Missile closing. Cabin warning screamed. Ava saw only one chance. Dive again, lure missile into cliff then. Pop back up. She nosed down. Altitude 100. Missile behind. At last instant, she yanked stick. Valkyrie climbed. Missile failed to pivot. Slammed cliff. Explosion geysering rock and ice. Shockwave tossed Valkyrie. She fought controls. Hull rattled but held. Below. Fenrir on roof fired rifles uselessly. She banked wide, scanning for further launches. None yet. She keyed internal com. Bird airborne. Ready for pickup coordinates. But interference scrambled. Back in bunker. Boone's voice faint. Ava. Reactor rods jammed again. Temperature climbing fast. If we don't vent, we cook. Ward. We cannot evacuate everyone in one pass while meltdown counts down. Ava's teeth clenched. She couldn't land craft inside again. Too hot. She plotted alternate. Open roof hatch above core, lower rescue sling. Unfeasible. She looked at map. Old ventilation stack could accommodate winch line. Narrow but workable. She could hover, drop cables, extract cores and team. Fuel 30% remaining, enough for hover, maybe 10 minutes, then flight to THULE. She broadcast on 243.0. Thule Ops. Valkyrie ghost hand requesting immediate air support. Coordinates following. Response static. Storm cells interfering. She circled back, hovering above vent stack. She lowered winch. Mally's voice came. Cores loaded. People next. She watched cable spool, hearts hammering. But Fenrir ground skimmer emerged from cloud. A&T, air turret rising. It fired burst. Tracers whizzed. She banked, cable swaying, cores dangling mid-air. Ward radioed. Cores secure, cut line if necessary. Ava refused. She swung craft around stack, using it as shield. Skimmer repositioned, aiming high. Ava had rail slugs? None. She spotted auxiliary hydraulic pipe on vent mast. Idea sprouted. She could vent superheated steam from stack upward. Timed with turret firing to distort tracking, she keyed Boone. "Trigger vent purge now," he obliged. Stack erupted white plume. Ava used it as smokescreen, drifting. Turret fired blindly, shells missing, but vent purge collapsed loop, reactor. Climbed again. Sirens inside resumed. "Ward, we're critical 3 minutes to runaway." Ava realized they can't fix again. Core must be SCRA-MIM. Disassembled by dropping boron flood rods deep, but mechanism jammed from quake. Only manual insertion, bottom up. Possible inside sundered sump. Sacrifice run. Boone volunteered overcome. "I'm closest. I can drop into sump, insert rods, but hatch will seal behind me." Ava's heart dropped. "Boone, no." He replied, voice calm. "Someone has to." Droppa for courage. Static dot she fought tears. Ward back online. Boone's already at ladder. We cover until you exfil. Cable retrieved last passengers. Mally boarded. Ward last refusing until Boone finished. Clock ticked. Ava hovered. Fuel draining. She glimpsed skimmer repositioning again. She triggered autopilot hover hold, dashed to cargo ramp, scanning down cable path. Through steam she saw Ward climbing line with one arm, rail rifle slung. Below her, Boone at sump hatch. Waved and disappeared inside darkness as hatch slid. Ward reached ramp, collapsed. "He'll flood rods, we must go." Tears in her eyes. Ava retreated to cockpit, throat tight. Fuel 14%. She throttled up, banking north toward Thule. Below, Echo Depth's roof glowed as vents vomited blue flame. Then silence lights extinguished. Reactor stable? Unknown. Behind, Fenrir skimmer chased. But Valkyrie outran it. But a new ping. Airborne radar lock from high-altitude unknown fighter vectoring fast. Ava's chest tightened. No countermeasures, low fuel, starboard engine missing. She glimpsed. Thruster plume high above. Stealth drone or fighter. She keyed Ward. Brace another inbound. Ward nodded, gripping rail. Radar lock solidified. A missile streaked, contrail silver. Ava's options exhausted. At that instant, unknown blip soared from horizon. Thule intercept jet. Missile diverted, chasing new heat sig from above, detonating. Mid-sky. White flash. Radio crackle. Ghost hand. "This is Snowbound 1. We've got your tail. Continue vector 09er. Tanker en route." Ava exhaled, but tension held. She counted fuel tick 7%. Snowbound reported. Boone broadcast reactor. Safe. He sealed below, alive, but perimeter swarming. "We'll mount rescue once you're safe." Ava's throat closed with emotion. She flew on, Aurora returning. Painting wounded Valkyrie in green fire. As she neared Thule radar range, port engine sputtered. She feathered remaining thrust into glide, runway lights beckoning. Touchdown rough. Tires shrieked. Craft stopped short of threshold. Crew cheered subdued. But celebration premature. Zoller spotted something. 1A I-core blinking red kernel. Worm still active despite isolation. Countdown 60 seconds to self-destruct. Ava's eyes widened. Ward yelled, "Jettison core!" Mally sprinted, but slip harness jammed. Ava grabbed fire axe, charged aft. 55 seconds. She swung, severing strap. Core heavy. She rolled it onto ramp sled. 50 seconds. Port door jammed. She triggered emergency blow. Door popped but stuck. 45 seconds. She heaved core, shoulder screaming, shoved towards door gap. 40 seconds. It wedged. 35 seconds. She kicked violently. Core budged but not clear. Ward joined, levering with rifle. Core slid, plummeted onto tarmac, rolling. 30 seconds. It settled upright. Meters from hull. Ward shouted to ground crew. They ran. 25 seconds. Time to run. They dove behind Gear Bay, 20 seconds. Ava's ears thud dead. Outside. Core's glass viewport flashed. 15. 14. Suddenly, Boone's voice on radio. Override code 9 Beta 7, abort explosive. He must have regained link. Ava recited code into Core's audio port. 10. 9. The red blinking slowed. 5. Blink. 4. Blink. Then ceased. Green light steadied. Ava collapsed onto ramp grate, tears and sweat mingling. Ward sighed relief, but tower alarm sounded. Multiple hostile blips entering airspace. Fenrir retaliation. Fighters inbound, Thule scrambling jets. Ground crew shouted. To evacuate Valkyrie, off runway. Yet crew too exhausted. Craft immobile. Ward looked at Ava. Round 3 coming. Can you fly again? Ava's fingers curled around yoke handle. Mental imprint. Fuel 0, engine 1, but yes. They prepared to taxi, but a sonic boom rattled windows. Fenrir hypersonic missile inbound for base. Scorched trail. Ava's eyes widened. No intercept. In time. She sprinted cockpit but knew seconds slim. The missile split mid-air into cluster warheads raining down. She yelled to crew, "Get down!" Warheads descended like falling stars across Thule as sirens wailed. But autopilot still warming. Ava made decision. Manual override. Someone had to sprint to surface. Start craft under missile crosshairs. She grabbed flight gloves, bleeding arms screaming. "I'll go. Keep cores safe," Mally protested. She shook head. She sprinted down auxiliary shaft lit by red strobes. Ascending rust ladders 4 levels, lungs burning. Missile alarm beeped faster. She burst into glass cold, blizzard biting face. Valkyrie sat at cliff, Apu whine rising. She leapt onto ramp ruins, slid to cockpit. She powered displays. Port engine idle but starboard gone. She prayed patch lines. Held, toggled throttle. Missile smoke trail visible through snow, weaving. She keyed seatbelt, engaged thrust, craft shuddered forward. Ground rumbled. Blast door behind her cracked as Fenrir reinforcements reached rooftop. T-unknown. She lifted nose just clearing snowbank. Missile closed. Tap A if you feel your heartbeat sync with engines. She muttered. She kicked rudder, dumping chaffless flare. Nothing. She rolled Valkyrie sideways along canyon wall, scraping paint, missile tracking heat flares from burning neck below. It swerved, confused, but second missile launched, fuel low. Only vertical boost left. She pulled up, engines wailing. Altitude 300 feet. Missile closing. Cabin warning screamed. Ava saw only one chance. Dive again, lure missile into cliff then. Pop back up. She nosed down. Altitude 100. Missile behind. At last instant, she yanked stick. Valkyrie climbed. Missile failed to pivot. Slammed cliff. Explosion geysering rock and ice. Shockwave tossed Valkyrie. She fought controls. Hull rattled but held. Below. Fenrir on roof fired rifles uselessly. She banked wide, scanning for further launches. None yet. She heat internal come. Bird airborne. Ready for pickup coordinates. But interference scrambled. Back in bunker. Boone's voice faint. Ava. Reactor rods jammed again. Temperature climbing fast. If we don't vent, we cook. Ward. We cannot evacuate everyone in one pass while meltdown counts down. Ava's teeth clenched. She couldn't land craft inside again. Too hot. She plotted alternate. Open roof hatch above core. Lower rescue sling. Unfeasible. She looked at map. Old ventilation stack could accommodate winch line. Narrow but workable. She could hover, drop cables. Extract cores and team. Fuel 30% remaining, enough for hover, maybe 10 minutes, then flight to THULE. She broadcast on 243.0. Thule Ops. Valkyrie ghost hand requesting immediate air support. Coordinates following. Response static. Storm cells interfering. She circled back, hovering above vent stack. She lowered winch. Mally's voice came. Cores loaded. People next. She watched cable spool, hearts hammering. But Fenrir ground skimmer emerged from cloud. On DI air turret rising. It fired burst. Tracers whizzed. She banked, cable swaying. Cores dangling midair. Ward radioed. Cores secure. Cut line if necessary. Ava refused. She swung craft around stack, using it as shield. Skimmer repositioned, aiming high. Ava had rail slugs? None. She spotted auxiliary hydraulic pipe on vent mast. Idea sprouted. She could vent superheated steam from stack upward. Timed with turret firing to distort tracking. She keyed Boone. Trigger vent purge now, he obliged. Stack erupted white plume. Ava used it as smokescreen, drifting. Turret fired blindly, shells missing. But vent purge collapsed loop, reactor. Climbed again. Sirens inside resumed. Ward, we're critical 3 minutes to runaway. Ava realized they can't fix again. Core must be SCRA men. Disassembled by dropping boron flood rods deep, but mechanism jammed from quake. Only manual insertion, bottom up. Possible inside sundered sump. Sacrifice run, Boone volunteered overcome. I'm closest. I can drop into sump, insert rods, but hatch will seal behind me. Ava's heart dropped. Boone, no. He replied, voice calm. Someone has to. Drop for courage. Static. She fought tears. Ward back online. Boone's already at ladder. We cover until you exfil. Cable retrieved last passengers. Mally boarded. Ward last, refusing until Boone finished. Clock ticked. Ava hovered. Fuel draining. She glimpsed skimmer repositioning again. She triggered autopilot hover hold, dashed to cargo ramp, scanning down cable path. Through steam she saw Ward climbing line with one arm, rail rifle slung. Below her, Boone at sump hatch. Waved and disappeared inside darkness as hatch slid. Ward reached ramp, collapsed. He'll flood rods, we must go. Tears in her eyes. Ava retreated to cockpit, throat tight, fuel 14%. She throttled up, banking north toward Thule. Below, Echo Depth's roof glowed as vents vomited blue flame. Then silence lights extinguished. Reactor stable? Unknown. Behind, Fenrir skimmer chased. But Valkyrie outran it. But a new ping. Airborne radar lock from high altitude unknown fighter vectoring fast. Ava's chest tightened. No countermeasures, low fuel, starboard engine missing. She glimpsed. Thruster plume high above, stealth drone or fighter. She keyed Ward. Brace another inbound. Ward nodded, gripping rail, radar lock solidified. A missile streaked, contrail silver. Ava's options exhausted. At that instant, unknown blip soared from horizon. Thule intercept jet. Missile diverted, chasing new heat sig from above, detonating. Mid-sky. White flash. Radio crackle. Ghost hand, this is Snowbound 1, we've got your tail. Continue Vector 09er. Tanker en route. Ava exhaled but tension held. She counted fuel tick 7%. Snowbound reported. Boom broadcast reactor. Safe. He's sealed below, alive but perimeter swarming. We'll mount rescue once you're safe. Ava's throat closed with emotion. She flew on, Aurora returning. Painting wounded Valkyrie in green fire. As she neared Thule radar range, port engine sputtered. She feathered remaining thrust into glide, runway lights beckoning. Touchdown rough. Tires shrieked. Craft stopped short of threshold. Crew cheered subdued. But celebration premature. Zoller spotted something. 1AI core blinking red kernel. Worms still active despite isolation. Countdown 60 seconds to self-destruct. Ava's eyes widened. Ward yelled, Jettison core. Mally sprinted but slip harness jammed. Ava grabbed fire axe, charged aft. 55 seconds. She swung, severing strap, core heavy. She rolled it onto ramp, sled. 50 seconds. Port door jammed. She triggered emergency blow. Door popped but stuck. 45 seconds. She heaved core, shoulders screaming. Shoved towards door gap. 40 seconds. It wedged. 35 seconds. She kicked violently. Core budged but not clear. Ward joined, levering with rifle. Core slid, plummeted onto tarmac, rolling. 30 seconds. It settled upright. Meters from hull. Ward shouted to ground crew. They ran. 25 seconds. Time to run. They dove behind gear bay. 20 seconds. Ava's ears thud. Outside. Core's glass viewport flashed. 15. 14. Suddenly, Boone's voice on radio. Override code 9 Beta 7. Abort explosive. He must have regained link. Ava recited code into Core's audio port. 10. 9. The red blinking slowed. 5. Blink. 4. Blink. Then ceased. Green light steadied. Ava collapsed under ramp grate, tears and sweat mingling. Ward sighed relief, but tower alarm sounded. Multiple hostile blips entering airspace. Fenrir retaliation. Fighters inbound, Thule scrambling jets. Ground crew shouted. To evacuate Valkyrie off runway. Yet crew too exhausted. Crafty mobile. Ward looked at Ava. Round 3 coming. Can you fly again? Ava's fingers curled around yoke handle. Mental imprint. Fuel 0, engine 1, but yes. They prepared to taxi, but a sonic boom rattled windows. Fenrir hypersonic missile inbound for base scorched trail. Ava's eyes widened. No intercept. In time. She sprinted cockpit but knew seconds slim. The missile split mid-air into cluster warheads raining down. She yelled to crew, "Get down!" Warheads descended like falling stars across Thule as sirens wailed.